Hello everybody, it's Beau Hindman from Massivley.com. I'm here to tell you about several of my favorite free-to-play, independent, massively multiplayer online role-playing games. It's a big mouthful there, but basically we're talking about independent free-to-play games that if you're like into World of Warcraft back there, similar type of games where you have thousands, hundreds or thousands, maybe close to millions of players on different servers, and you join them across the world for different battles and stuff like that. Well, today I'm going to be telling you about several of my favorite independent free-to-play ones. Now, the great thing about playing these is that you have different ways of playing. You can download them and run them through your browser, and also you're going to be supporting an independent team. So let's get right to the list, and hopefully you can try out some of these. Alright, first of all, we're going to be looking at Arcane Legends. Arcane Legends is really the best of the Legends franchise, brought to you by Spacetime Studios. It's a good-looking dungeon crawler. Development is constantly going on. The development team is always putting something into the cash shop or new content to burn through or whatever. Speaking of the cash shop, it's excellent, but it does sell powerful items, so you do have to get used to the fact that you might be buying power in that cash shop, like swords, armor, stuff like that. I like the appearance armor myself. But it's just an agreement that the community's made, so nobody really seems to care, although there is PvP in most of the Legends titles. It is accessible across all platforms. You can play it on the browser with your friend who's on the iOS and the other friend who might be on the Android device. Alright, next we're looking at Alganon. Despite its limited development, it's still a fun theme park MMO with sandbox elements, meaning that you have stuff like linear questing and killing monsters and stuff like that, but then you have that alongside offline skill training like that you would find in EVE Online. There has been promise of an expansion coming soon, quote-unquote, but that promise has been coming for a while. It's a good-looking game, if not a little bit of a familiar-looking game, and the cash shop is a lot of fun to play around in. I like it for just exploration, loose play, jumping in for an hour here and there. It's completely free, and it's actually a really neat-looking game. I think you might enjoy it. Alright, next we're going to be looking at Wurm Online, a Java-based, open-world, sandbox, optional PvP, sometimes forced PvP, player-created items, housing, digging, all that MMO. It's basically, how to describe it? It's basically a world where you and your friends can exist. You actually will dig up dirt and build you a house and plant a farm, raise livestock. You can be completely peaceful and trade with other players, and trade takes real time. To travel across the world, it might take you several hours in a boat. Great game for explorers, and there's been a recent brand new graphics update that makes everything look just so much more modern and amazing. The spiders in particular are freaky looking. So it's a great game if you're into sandbox gameplay, trade, kind of like a virtual world more than a game, really. Alright, up next we have Grepolis. This is an MMORPGs, which is a massively multiplayer online real-time strategy game. That's another mouthful there. There's different servers with unique rule sets, but generally the rule set is attack anybody you want. So you kind of come into this game on an island surrounded by strangers. You can make friends pretty quickly, join factions and guilds and trade and all that good stuff. The cool thing about it is it can run on, as long as you have a browser, you can run this game, and you can even run it on a tablet pretty much. But they do have a mobile version that is coming out soon, quote unquote. In fact, by the time you see this, they might already have the mobile version out. Free players do not feel as hamstrung in the game as you might in other games. If you don't spend any money, you're probably still going to be okay. In fact, I don't spend much money on one account, and I spend most of my money on my main account. My other account does just fine. But the good thing about it is that they're constantly improving the game, and they're communicating to the community, with the community, through a community portal. We wrote about this on Massively.com. It's a really strong communication link that they take a lot of pride in, and it really works well. Alright, up next is The West. This is a game by the same people who made Grepolis. They're not quite independent. InnoGames out of Germany has probably 200 or some odd employees, but there's technically an independent company, and it's been fun to watch them grow. But The West features really deep sandbox gameplay that's set in a world we rarely see, which is the West of America back in good old days. It has primitive graphics, what I like to call representative graphics, meaning that instead of literally guiding a 3D avatar through the 3D world, you're kind of moving almost game pieces across a game board. What's cool about that is your brain really fills in a lot of the information, but it's still the full gameplay experience you'd get in any other game. This is a min-maxer's dream game. If you're into stats and tweaking and PvP and making yourself perfect in equipment, this game is for you. There are massive fort battles that you have to see to believe. It's really hard to describe unless I was a part of one right now. I could show you, but you basically join with several, possibly hundreds of other players at one time and attack a fort. And there's tons of non-combat activities, including crafting and trading and traveling and all that good stuff. Alright, next on the list is one of my favorites of all time, Die to Night. It's an amazing, in-depth survival gameplay MMO that barely uses any graphics at all. It uses some words, communication, and some basic symbols. Basically, you join a town of up to about 40 players, and you have to survive zombie attacks that happen once per real day. So I think it's around 5 p.m. EDT, Eastern Time, is when the attack happens here in America. And the site literally shuts down for 10 minutes. Literally, you cannot access the site. When it comes up, the zombie attack, quote unquote, is gone, and you have to see how well everybody survived. Now, you survive by going out into the wasteland and collecting and scavenging and surviving and finding stuff and killing zombies, bringing it back to your town, and hopefully creating new and interesting ways of defending your town. The game can run on almost anything. It does have, from what I understand, a flash-based map, so that kind of cuts it out from some mobile, like tablets and stuff like that. But pretty much it can run on anything. You can run it on a netbook, on your notebook, on your. I think I ran it on successfully on my Chromebook, of course, because that runs Flash and everything like that. So it becomes harder and harder as you go along, as you try and survive. The more days you survive, the more scary it becomes, and you will be so surprised at how scary and wonderfully fun this game is when you start to mistrust your fellow citizens and everything starts to become really, really hairy. Next on the list, Ryzom. This is one of the most original indie MMOs, one of the most original games you're going to find out there, period. It's a little bit unknown to people outside of MMOdom, but it started around '06, I believe. But you're basically set on a giant root ball. Yes, I said a root ball, like a wad of roots floating in the earth, in the universe, I should say. Everything on the planet is organic. The clothes, the weapons, everything is crafted from the ground. So this is really a sci-fantasy game, if you're a fan of that type of stuff. It has sandbox gameplay, really sandbox gameplay. You can choose from 4 main trees of skills: combat, gathering, crafting, and magic. Within each one of those are several other layers of skills, so it can literally take you years and years and years to master every skill if you want to do that. You can play completely with no combat at all. You can play peacefully, you can trade, you can become a crafter, or you can go out there and grind away on mobs. There are a few quests, especially on the newbie island called Alanon, and there's some linear activity like that, but most of it is just open world sandbox glory. Very dedicated community, and one of the best looking games. Some of the most realistic weather patterns that actually affect gameplay for its age. I mean, this is a fantastic, unique game. You have to play it if you haven't played it before. Alright, then we have Puzzle Pirates. And it looks a little bit silly, like it's made for kids or something like that, but Puzzle Pirates is a great game where everything is puzzle based, meaning every little thing that you do in the game, from crafting to combat to driving a ship around with your friends in real time with a group of dozens of other people, is puzzle based. So say, for example, I jump on a ship with a crew of real players or even NPCs. I'm going to do a puzzle, let's say building or selling or carpentry or something, to help the ship go along. Somebody else, if they do selling, they might help the ship go faster. The captain is going to steer the ship and say where it's going to go. And then once we're locked in combat with other players, we might do PvP using a game of swords or brawling or something like that. Just depends. But there's deep crafting. Crafting plays a huge part in the game. You can craft all your furniture and your clothing and your weapons. And you have your own house. You start off with a little tiny shack, but you have your own house. It's free, but with an optional subscription. I would probably go with the subscription if you can. It's been a while since I subscribed, so it's nice to know that you can still play for free, absolutely for free, and have a great time. The last one is a game called Stars Stable. Now, I reviewed this game a while ago on Massively and had an absolute blast in it. Now, it looks like a game that's made just for little girls, but let me tell you, it's not just for little girls. Now, it's based on a single-player game, so that's where some of the really extreme linear gameplay comes from, so it's very much a theme park game. But you have this horse, and you essentially go through story quests and work your way through the story, and your friends can come along and you can do some quests together, or you can do these social activities like racing your horses and decorating them and dressing up and all that kind of fun stuff. But what really impressed me about this game is that the horse physics and generally how solid the game feels, along with the fact that it'll run really easily on a lower tech, a gaming system that's not as powerful, let's say. This all added up. It really impressed me because it made it feel much more. I mean, you could tell adults made the game for younger players, but there are a lot of older players that play this game. Horse lovers, crazy. On their Facebook page, they post a lot of pictures of their horse lovers, I should say, of their players, and these are people ranging from age 12 all the way up to 60. I met a few people who were in their 60s. Horse lovers are crazy passionate about horses and about their video games based on horses. So if you enjoy horses, if you enjoy taking care of a virtual animal, it's actually a really, really wonderful, fun game. But it's a very active community. They always are updating it with a new story quest, and I don't know. I just really like this game. I'm not apologizing for it because I don't care if people think that I like virtual horses, because I do. Alright, so there's just a smattering of independent, free-to-play, massively multiplayer, online role-playing games for you to try. Definitely try all of them if you can. Don't worry about getting super far in them. Don't worry about being the best player. Just try them, and it will open you up to the world of independent free-to-play games out there. There's really quite a few, but these are just some of my favorites because they're so solid. They have a lot of development going on. If they don't have as much development, they have just a really nice, solid set of gameplay, mechanics in place already. Some are completely open sandboxes, and some of them are much more linear theme parks. Whatever you enjoy, I have something for you on the list. But if you'd like to contact me, you can at Twitter, which it's at Beau_Hindman. Of course, you can find my articles on Massively. If you want to look there, please do. And you can always go to beauhindman.com. But thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time, and please go enjoy these games. They're fantastic.